Well, it's that time of year again, and I have to honestly wonder whether the Conservatives are generally going to do this every year, even when they're not in power. Probably backed by, I don't know, some think tank. Probably will be the case of that grand report. This is Brexit, guys. How wonderful it is, and bear in mind, if, as we've always said, if Brexit was, a rick roaring rollicking success, people like Kemi Badenoch would be screaming from the roof. Nigel Farage would be ooh rah rahing, look at that. He'd be literally in the streets of London, drunk, running through the streets in Union Jack underwear, shouting how amazing Brexit's going. While the crowd cheers him on. But of course, the reality is far from that. You've had this, just a couple of, I think it was, just late last week, you had the British Chamber of Commerce brought out, we did the review on it. The British Chamber of Commerce brought out their review of, SMEs and not seeing any changes in exporting. In fact, it was getting even worse for them. And now you've had more businesses come out and say, and criticize Badenoch's report, saying, you're saying all this, but the reality of what we are experiencing as businesses is far, far different from what you are putting forward in this. And as we always said, every single time when Brexit meets reality, reality will always win. You cannot escape the real economic consequences of what we've talked about since 2016. And bear in mind, we've now had 4 years. Next year, it'll be 5. And yet still no Brexit benefits from the people who said that immediately as we left, that the benefits would come flooding in. And now, of course, they are on a quest to blame everyone else but themselves, blaming civil servants, still blaming the EU, blaming Labour, even though they're not in power, blaming Kemi Badenoch in some reasons, blaming others, blaming their own party, blaming anyone but themselves for the mess that, well, they made. And remember, this was a 40-year epic quest many of them claim to go on that finally they have now achieved. And yet they haven't really achieved a lot. So I'm just going to go over some very quickly of the claims of the, should we say, dubious and in some cases very sketchy claims that Badenoch has made in her report, because some of them are very dubious indeed. And of course, you'll have heard some of them before as well. So, as always, before we go getting into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for watching. We haven't even started yet. But anyway, thank you very much for all the support that you guys show. Please remember to click on the like, share, and of course the subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to the Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. So, what are some of these claims Badenoch has made? Well, the first one, pardon me, she makes is this newfound agility was crucial in helping us get through the pandemic. And yes, you know where this is going instantly, with the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, which in turn allowed us to reopen our economy even sooner. Once again, obsessed with this idea that we were able to do this only because we were out. But as we've sorted out and said before, not only did other countries have faster vaccine rates than us, thus, have the vaccine rollout, but they also reopened their economies as well because they had a lot faster vaccine rollout. You've got Channel 4 disproved it. BBC have said this proves it. And I think there's even, the UK medical regulator also disproved it. So, again, Brexit benefit. Next one. My department has negotiated free trade agreements with over 73 countries, from Mexico to Malaysia, and we have signed the most comprehensive deal that the EU has ever agreed to in its history. Still pointing out, most of these, quote, free trade agreements aren't free trade agreements. They are rollover deals from still when we were in the EU. The most, quote, ambitious comprehensive deal is threatening the very livelihoods of farmers, thanks to the awful Australian and New Zealand trade deal. The Canada free trade deal, which fell to pieces, that they are going to absolutely rinse us for when it comes to Pacific Partnership time, because, oh boy, gonna be fun. And speaking of the Progressive Pacific Partnership, the UK will also shortly be joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. It will make over 99% of goods eligible for zero tariffs in some of the world's most dynamic economies. Except we already have trade deals with all but one Pacific Partnership member, and it's producing pitiful amounts. Kemi Badenoch's own sense, own sense, own group said this is only going to be 0.04% in the long run, adding to our economy. That is nothing. And then, because of this trade deal that has fallen about, Canada might actually decide against ratifying us, because that's being talked about in Canada right now, apparently. So, looks like we probably won't be joining the Pacific Partnership, which will, to be honest, be very good. So please, Canada, go against that ratification. That will be a massive help for us. The other one, she says, that within the EU, the UK would not have been able to cut VAT on the installations of solar panels, heat pumps, and insulation to zero. Here's the thing. The EU changes. Germany pays no VAT on solar panels and batteries. So again, wrong. So this is a good one in terms of the Port Talbot disaster that we've just had, losing 30% of our steel industry. So since leaving the EU, the UK has secured market access for UK steel and aluminium into the US market. We ended the US ban on British beef and lamb, markets estimated by our industry to be worth over £66 million and £37 million to EU exporters, respectively, over the next 5 years. Here's the thing. The US meat industry, huge. You are not going to get a guaranteed access to that of £66 million. And just, suddenly, not only that, but you're now exporting beef and lamb. That's going to hurt our own UK grown industries here as well. Also, I want to point out the US still has not lifted its steel tariffs on the UK. It's lifted them on the EU, but hasn't lifted them on the UK. So again, something else hurting the UK steel industry. And she goes on to talk about how the UK has now signed memorandums of understanding with 7 states in the US, all with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion, similar to the GDP of Germany. As we've said, every single time they sign one of these or someone talks about these, A memorandum of understanding is not a trade deal. It basically means nothing. It's not a binding commitment. It has no international guarantees, means nothing. It is nothing binding at all when it comes to international law. So signing these memorandum of understanding is pointless. You know, it will let me be saying that this pen is worth about 20 billion, you know, because of, you know, I have it in a memorandum of understanding. I don't think this pen is worth 20 billion pounds or 20 billion dollars in this case. Um, yeah, it's just again, and the whole thing is full of things like these. And honestly, I think we're gonna have to do a live stream where we just cover the whole thing at some point. In fact, we might do actually. I think that'll be fun. We'll do that at some point. Um, but yeah, the whole thing is just full of things like this, and we've heard this all before. It's stuff that we could have done when we were in the EU. Nothing was stopping us from doing that. We could have done it ourselves. Um, the US is said it would far rather prefer doing a trade deal with the EU than the UK, but currently no major US politician seems to be interested in doing free trade deals. They're more interested in sort of protectionism at the moment, including Donald Trump. I doubt he's going to sign off on a quote fantastic free trade deal. That'll be certainly true. Also, the Inflation Reduction Act, again, big problem, sucking a lot of jobs from the UK and Europe as well at the moment, but especially the UK because, well, thank you, Rishi Sunak, for throwing away all those green pledges. Yeah, like I say, massively hindered us in any race going forward. But there you go. So, as always, yeah, what do you think to those benefits of Kemi Badenoch? Like I say, some of them we've heard before, some of them are really misleading when you actually look into the claims of what she's making. But what can we expect? So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.